So Lindsay, founder of Blueprint HR. Welcome to the Founder Talk podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We'll do a quick cheers.
Cheers.
Excited to have you on. So let me give you, I'm going to just list off a quick blurb in terms of what Blueprint HR does.
Yes.
Just to give some context for the audience. But then we're going to get into some other stuff just some interesting takes that you have that I saw on LinkedIn. So,
okay.
Some spicy takes, as you call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Blueprint, and you correct me if this is off. Blueprint HR helps companies grow, helps growing companies build the right HR systems and processes so they hire smarter, keep talent longer, and avoid costly people problems, saving time, reducing turnover, and making the business more predictable and scalable.
That's better than what I have probably on my content, but yes, that is what we do.
There we go. Well, that's good then.
Yeah.
We summed it up nicely. Okay. I feel like you put the human in human resources, especially just watching your LinkedIn posts. I like your angle and your spicy takes and some of the things that maybe some HR professionals are scared to say. I feel like you just kind of say it. So I'm going to ask you about that real quick. There's a few things, just some honest takes that you had that I think are relevant to everyone listening here. It's mostly entrepreneurs, founders, business owners. First one was you said, before you ask anyone your Monday morning autopilot greeting of, hey, how was your weekend? Please, for the sake of all things, do not do it.
Yeah.
Why should they not do it?
So that was in response to the horrific acts happening in Minnesota that one weekend, and I won't name it, but it was brutal. And it was something that I had to address very quickly and honestly and be very real, because I could envision this happening where someone walks in on a Monday morning and they had experienced, close to home or not close to home, this incident. And I said, everybody needs to stop with the, every business is normal and everything is normal, because it's not. And so my spicy hot take on that was, as leaders, employees look to leaders, managers, whomever, to validate their experience, whether it's in the office or not in the office. And so when leaders can actually take a beat and pause and acknowledge it and put some words behind it, I think you build a level of trust, and I don't want to say comfort, because it's not comfort, it's not normal, but there is that bridge building that can happen. And so what I wanted to do in that post was give leaders and employees an expectation of we all need to pause and we need to address this. And I also am vocal now on political topics. I have a lot more freedom because I am a founder, and I can be more vocal about these things. And I think HR has a responsibility to be vocal and also guide their leaders that they're working with to be vocal on topics now. And so part of that post was to address it and set an expectation. And then the other part was to give managers, that those frontline managers are really navigating at a different level their individual contributors on their team as well as leadership. And so giving them some tools and talking points that they can easily bring in, address, and kind of be the leader that maybe they don't have in an organization.
Now, what if you're just someone that doesn't really watch the news or pay attention to political things? You're coming in, it's Monday morning. Yo, what up, dog? How was your weekend?
Yeah.
You're just talking to your people.
Yeah.
And they're like, Jesus, dude, everything's falling. There's some crazy stuff going on.
The world is on fire.
Some heavy stuff's going on right now. What do you say to that manager or leader?
That's a good question. What do I say to that manager? I think there's a little bit of read the room. There's also an expectation that I have of people in general to be informed about their surroundings. I think if you ask someone to, you go to the airport and you're like, you can't just walk around the airport. You're like, no, I have my suitcase and my things. You're prepared. So I expect employees and people and citizens of the world to be informed about what's happening in their town. So if you're in, Chicago, or you're in your suburb and that high school's team just won a championship, be aware of how that's impacting your peers. Or, hey, remember, your kid was competing in this thing this weekend. Or, hey, I saw on the news this horrific act. I think we have to be participating. And I want leaders to do this. I want employees to do this. Someone's always going to say that, hey, man, what's going on? Just autopilot. it happens. Okay. And I don't think the response is, oh my gosh, you didn't know.
Right.
But just say, hey, it was a heavy weekend. I need a minute. Like I'm not ready to be here right now. And that's okay too. And, maybe inform them.
I think that's a good perspective, is to not be judgmental on the other side.
Yes.
Because that's what sometimes you see. Either one, there's no awareness or empathy towards what has happened. And then in the other side, you just see complete judgment of like, how could you not have known? It's like, all right, dude, you ain't got to shame people for like, some kind of virtue signaling, or whatever it is.
Right.
It's like, just educate them. Just like, hey, there's some heavy stuff going on right now. And, it might make sense to pause for a few people, or the group or the team or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's either way, the empathy's got to be there for what's going on. I mean, I
remember at the beginning of COVID when everybody went home, that fateful March Friday or whatever it was. Yeah. And I got some LinkedIn messages from, I was the head of HR at a company, and we were processing immigration petitions. So H-1B visas, green cards, and like everything was shutting down. And we were like trying to buy a commercial printer and put it in someone's garage in Ravenswood so we can print out all these things. Like that didn't happen. But we were just like triaging. And I got this email on LinkedIn from someone going, hey, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to reach out and see if you were interested in this insert thing. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I have a 15-month-old on my lap watching Frozen for the 17th time today. And I'm trying to like do an M&A and do a private equity exit. And I'm read the room person. Like why, so I think there's that next level of outreach. And we learned during COVID that was, a foray into how do we communicate better and more honestly and more openly and not so cut paste, even in the age of AI, where we can be more human connect. I mean, we want that, right? Yeah. We want that connection, and leaders and managers, employees are all trying to navigate it real time.
Mm-hmm. And then the next thing that you got, like April or May, March, at the months after, right after COVID, were, how are you doing in these unprecedented times? And I hope you're doing well. But it was just like a throwaway. Every first line was, I hope you're doing well in these unprecedented times. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, now you're just like acting like you're empathetic, but you're really not.
Yeah, the novelty had worn off. The honeymoon phase had worn off.
Yeah.
And we're like quickly looking at, okay, so it's summer and we've been outside here in Chicago. And then I remember I had to have a meeting with leadership and my managers, and they're starting to panic because it's like September and October. And they're like, wait, my kids are supposed to be going back to school and maybe they're not, and that's going on. And then there's this whole, it's going to be winter. Winter is coming. And like, that whole kind of, oh my God, we're going to be inside again. And I've been, I had one employee who's like, I've been staring at my roommate on the couch for 6 months and I am losing my mind. And I'm like, yeah, those are things. And so what I hope to do in HR is kind of connect those dots for leaders or employees or managers real time, but also keep the business running. I don't want to say like, business still has to be business, but you have to real time address those things. And when you hire, a fractional HR leader or look at your operational tech stack or your people processes, you have to have someone who's like, I've seen it. I have some gray hairs from it.
Yeah.
And have those kind of as takeaways to navigate these times. And
going back to the asking people how they're doing or how their weekend was. Yeah. I feel like a lot of leaders, myself included at times, you kind of struggle you're coming back from a long weekend or whatever it might be. Someone had some time off. And then or even maybe you're opening up a chat with a prospect or a client, and it's like the same. It feels very like cookie cutter, disingenuous of like, hey, how's it going? Good. How are you? Good. Yeah. Or it's like, how was your weekend? It was good. How was yours? Good. What'd you do? We did this and that.
How about them Bears?
Yeah, kind of exactly. Like, what do you have any recommendations for leaders to engage better in, I don't know if you'd call it small talk or building relationships or whatever it might be?
Yeah. So it's the good old Ted Lasso, be curious. And having the patience to listen to what they're saying. And that's going to start before Monday morning. Yeah. So it's going to be going into, what do I know about this person? And so if you're asking about their kids or they're moving or when is their birthday? When is their anniversary with the company? If there's a tenure thing, like, hey, you've been here 3 months. How are you? Mm-hmm. Like there's linguistic things that you can emphasize. How are you?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
And not just like, how's it going? And like
yes.
kind of blindly stare off into the abyss, like waiting for it's good, fine.
Right.
Like listen more. I think there's a listening and a patience that has to happen. And I say that being the most impatient person ever. I say that to myself, but it's a lot about being curious and honestly looking for something more. On the flip side, if you're a leader and you're walking into that conference room and you've got your Monday morning meeting, also don't have a Monday morning meeting. Like, just stop. Let's not do that. But if you're walking into that meeting and be like, all right, there's a lot of stuff going on. I know there's a lot of stuff on people's plates. Like, give space for that. And I'm not trying to be woo-woo about it, but, if there's anything, I want to address a couple large things. This weekend was rough. It was a hard weekend. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's debrief, and I'll tell you over here, but it's affecting our teams, and I'm sure many of them are impacted on it. And I don't know what to do about it right now, but I want to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I think that can I don't want to say clear the air and remove the elephant from the room, but it definitely gives space for avoiding I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to be political, or I don't want to be, talk about it. Let's talk about it. And let's practice talking about it, because we're not going to get better talking about hard things unless we practice. And I think managers need to see that happen. Leaders need to practice doing it. Gosh knows, I was the VP of HR during COVID, and they're looking at me for communications. I'm like, I don't know. I'm texting my friend over at this other company, figuring out what they're doing. We're just doing our best. And if you're curious and kind of leading with that curiosity and that patience, that can come through better.
Makes me think about the calls I have with clients and prospects too. And if you know something about them coming into it, almost like being intentional with how you open up the call. Because we just kind of come in and rush into the next call, and it's like, how's it going? Good. How's it going? Good.
Yeah.
Versus like, hey, how are your two kiddos doing? Or what's going on with them? What's new with them? Or, you know, something like that, where it's just like, it's just a better way to start the conversation.
Yeah.
To your point, you got to be curious to begin with. You have to be, and you meet people where they're just like, they talk all the time and it's all about them, and then they never ask you, what are you into, or what are you doing this weekend, or what's going on with you and Will? And those are the kind of people you want to be around. I tell I have two daughters, 12 and 9. And I was just telling my 12-year-old the other day, I was like, just be really curious about people. So that's how, people will actually gravitate towards you more, and you'll learn about them, and you can understand them better, and they'll learn about more, learn more about you. And I think that's really is the key. It's like how to influence people, how to win friends and influence people. It's like, ask people questions, but not just surface level stuff. Really be interested in what they're doing and what they have going on and who they are as a person. I think that's so key.
And I think if you're not sure where to start, you can lead with yourself.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Monday's here. Super glad Monday's here. Had a crazy weekend with the kid. We had a lot of fun. We went luging in Muskegon, and it was so fun. But I'm glad it's Monday. Time to focus on some things. And then, how about you? You guys do anything? How's the kid?
Yeah.
Oh, good. We had the flu this weekend. Awesome. Thanks for coming to work. Those kind of quippy things, or just, I don't know. You can frame it however you want. You can have an agenda or not, but lead with something that's personal for you and showing that to your team. A lot of founders they want to be curious, but I'm like, well, I want to know about you and what's going on. I mean, I loved knowing when I was in corporate, I loved knowing about the CEO or the leadership team's kids, or kind of adventures and side quests and whatever they had going on, or backstories.
Yeah.
This one time in law school, I met this person. I'm like, that is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it becomes kind of a running thread of kind of bonding over that topic. I don't want to say an inside joke because it's very Mean Girls, but it becomes with either the leadership team or the people that were shared in that conversation, a nice thread to say, hey, you know what? You mentioned that your kid is going to insert college. My son is really interested in that too. Maybe let's talk in a couple months. I'd love to maybe introduce them and they can talk shop. You don't know where that leads to, but also just being curious.
Yeah, that really is a lot of it. So you mentioned that you don't think companies should have meetings on Mondays.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Why is that?
No, I think they should, just not at like 8 a.m.
Okay.
Like, that's just a rough start.
Give people time to settle in. And
just settle in. If you are a company that does have, a kind of a schedule where you are in the office and you're not async or you're not global, just let's be realistic. If call time is to be in the office by 8 or 8:30 and you're scheduling a meeting at 8 or 8:30, come on. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just not how you're going to spend more time stressing people out for this arbitrary like start date or start time. And I'm also a big fan of like auditing your calendar and like questioning everything and doing this quarterly. And I want leaders to do that. And I want individuals to do that. I know individuals are like, well, this is what my boss put on the calendar. But like, lean into that and say, hey, boss, can we do a calendar audit? I've been noticing in this meeting, not a lot's getting done. Like, nobody wants to say no to it because we don't know how. But like, I think there's a necessary thing that has to happen, and leaders and founders need to do that. I do it all the time. I actually schedule a quarterly like thing on my calendar to be like, hey, just check. It's in my Asana task. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. Just check the calendar.
Yeah.
Are things working the way you want them to work? And if not, do it over, like change it. And so when it comes to a company, having a Monday morning meeting, now if that's just in your culture and that's like everybody likes it and they're like, yes, this works for us, okay, then keep it.
Sure.
That's fine.
Right.
But I think I'm always but why? Why? What's the goal? Well, we want people to be here. Okay. But is it working? Are you getting what is needed out of that? Or is it really stressing the one person out who's like, I drive my kid to school and it is so hard for me to do that kind of handoff and parenting situation. Or maybe there's an individual who's just like, I just have a hard time, being there on Monday morning. Every other day is great, but that Monday morning is just not for me. So question everything. Do a calendar audit, but be nice about those Monday morning meetings.
Yeah, I like that. I think you do got to question things. Does this need to be a meeting?
Yeah.
I was in corporate and we would meet twice a day. Like two mandatory meetings, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Sometimes they were impactful and moved the business forward, and it actually developed people. Yeah. And other times it was like, we're all just kind of sitting around here. Like, what are we checking in? I mean, it's 20, 25 minutes of just like going around and kind of checking in.
Yeah.
And I think if that's the case, do you not trust your people? Do you need to lead them in a different way?
Yeah.
Because some of it maybe is a little bit of like, I need to make sure this train is on the rails come Monday morning. Because if we don't meet and we're not aligned, this thing's off the rails by Tuesday, and then Thursday we're dealing with a shit show. Yeah. You think that's part of what it is for leaders?
Yeah, I think there's fear to change something, and fear of, it's not just like, well, we need to move, we have to have this meeting because otherwise things will go off the rails. Then my question as your friendly HR person is, okay, but where's the tech what are you accomplishing in that meeting? Is it rapport? Is it just checking in? Is it actually status and going over and discussing the metrics and like, here's why this one is up or down, and here's what we're seeing, and like putting the color commentary on top of the dashboards. But there is sometimes just a fear of changing and like taking the time to intentionally change something and change how is that metric the metric that we need to be measuring right now. I've had clients who are like, well, our turnover is XYZ. I'm like, I don't really care about your turnover right now. I'm more interested in how long it takes you to hire somebody. And those go hand in hand, as like turnover and hiring or, processes. But I think there is a real need for calendar audits and looking into each one of those things. And then when it comes to the two-a-days, I called it, I used to run those too when I had a recruiting team, and it was just so intense.
I was in recruiting. That's what it was.
Yeah. And you'd have two-a-days. And for me, it was more of like, we're going to stand up at 2:00 and we're going to look at each other and be like, did we get done what we said we would get done at 8:30?
That's right. That's a lot of what
and it's just a lot of like, yes, I got the things done, or no, something happened. And I'm like, great. and it was just an accountability thing. And it was literally 3 minutes of like just eyeball checks and like timeout, or no, we've got this new rec that just came in hot. And if I did that for 3 days, I would then be like, all right, we're done with the 2 days, because I was in-house too. I was corporate recruiting. I wasn't staffing, although staffing was fun too. But after 3 days of doing that, like, stop. Yeah. We're done. Otherwise, it's just not moving. It's not getting us through the slog any faster. Yeah. And so then I'd go to my boss and say, we're not doing 2 days. I need XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. And usually by 2 days of doing those stand-up meetings or those like intense kind of days, we'd get through whatever it was. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a standard of like, yep, I did the calls. Like, yeah. I think leaders need to rethink in those cases when you're having meetings for meeting's sake. It's like, what's the gap? If you're having a pre-meeting, you need to, well, no, I mean, there's a reality of like, all right, we've got this board meeting, so we're going to have a pre-meeting and a pre-meeting and all these things. That's fine, but you also need to understand who's in that meeting, because expensive meetings are fun when you're like looking at utilization or like hours and I'm fine with doing a pre-meeting. I'm fine with doing a pre-meeting, but you need to say, hey, these people are in this meeting because I want you to observe XYZ, because this is going to be you in 6 months. So for you, it's a learning thing. You have an active role in this meeting, and that's going to help kind of train and professionally develop those individual contributors. So invite that person to a meeting. I did this thing at one of the companies while I was in corporate where it was like directors and above, and there were like 40 people in this meeting. It was a 160 person company. Jeez. There are 40 people in this meeting. And I was like, okay, first of all, no. But there was an opportunity to bring in some of those individuals and help them prep for our board meeting. Because there was there was a clear, like, this is for your professional development. Mm-hmm. It's not just like, hey, do this slide deck and it's going to go to the board. It's like, I want you to see what it looks like. And so there were times in a board meeting where we had some of our senior kind of managers or directors, like just a few. Let's not overwhelm. Yeah. See what a board meeting looks like.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
And that was a really fun exercise, but having an intention on when you're having meetings and with who and what the role is can really help kind of create a stickiness factor and show leaders like, hey, you got to trust them, because they are seeing, behind the curtain more and more, and that's a good thing.
So you're a fractional HR partner to companies.
Yes.
How do you define human resources these days? Like, what is it to you?
Oh my God, what kind of question is that? How do I define human resources?
Yeah. I don't know if people even know what it is anymore. It's just like so many different
elements. It is so many things.
It's changed, and
It is changed. So human resources, whether you call it people or HR or talent, I think it is the part of the business that connects the dots between legal, finance, customer experience, and I'm probably missing something. Legal, finance. I don't know. It's like we wear a lot of hats, right? Like people experience. PX is like the new thing.
PX, what's that?
People experience.
Oh.
Curating a journey for your employee, or employee experience, EX. Curating the journey from when you're first going shopping and they're going shopping and you're like, we want to hang out and like get a job together and like work together. Curating that experience. Can you tell I came from marketing agencies? to onboarding, to their entire journey and like all the iterations of like when they hit their 1 year mark, when are they getting a performance review, when is their compensation to be discussed, like all those experiences that they should be having along the way. And also realizing that there's like an exit at some point where I'm like, there should be and can be an exit for that employee journey. And what does that look like? So whether they're giving notice or there's a RIF, or what is every single stage in that journey, so that at some point they go, I learned a lot. That was a good experience. In hindsight, maybe not in the moment, it's a good experience. So going back to what is HR, I think it's what the company needs it to be at the time of their, what I'll say, HR maturity level. Now, you can be a very mature HR organization at 50 employees, and you can be really immature at 250. And it's making sure that you're staying ahead of those inflection points as a growing business by having that kind of knowledge and that foresight. So HR can be paperwork, shouldn't be. Let's be real. There's technology out there.
I mean, faxes and
faxes. Faxes happen still. Yeah. But HR can and should be what the business needs now and in the next 24 months. And it needs to evolve and mature as that business grows and changes. It also needs to evolve and mature with what the employee experience requires. And when the business requires, a different talent pool because maybe their customers are changing. And so that means we're delivering our services and offerings in a different way. It does ripple back to your HR team. It's usually too late. And so by bringing in a fractional HR leader who's like, yeah, I'm dealing with that. I've been able to experience 6 industries in the last 3 years that I would have never touched because most of my corporate roles were in professional services, tech, VC, startups, and ad agencies. And so now I've got manufacturing, med spa, call center, retail. I've got another professional services. I've been able to see so many different kind of operational models and philosophies, and then been able to connect those dots a lot faster for my clients and say, if your goal is X and you're going to do it this way, here's what I foresee in these inflection points. And stuff breaks at 25 employees. Stuff breaks again at 75 employees. Like, no, you can't have them go to the local Apple store and just pick up a laptop and like Venmo you. That's not how... You're a 150-person company. No, well, we'll just ship it. We're going to ship a laptop from the U.S. to London? What? Well, yeah, we'll just go to the Apple store and buy it down the street and we'll ship it to London. I'm like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Well, and then I've had, Apple laptops in my office, in my personal house.
Wow.
Of people who are like, well, what do I do with the laptop? I'm like, ship it to me? I don't know, because I'm HR.
So is there I noticed you work with mostly 25 to 200 employee-based companies, right? That's kind of their head count. If you're a 15, 20-person employee company, if you're listening to this right now, you got 10, 15, 20, 25 employees, and you're thinking, well, we don't really have an HR department. Why would we need one necessarily?
Yeah.
When is it? What are the problems or pain points or moments that start coming up, or maybe even things they're not thinking about that you could point out to say, yeah, maybe we should start thinking about this whole HR thing?
It's the calendar audit. How many times as a leader are your calendar's there, but you keep getting sucked into conversations about a performance issue, or you're getting sucked into, you went out to coffee with your new director of CX and you're like, how's it going? They're like, great. I haven't gotten a laptop yet. And you're like, where? Now that's not HR's problem, but there's something breaking down in the process. And so I think there's a great opportunity for companies in that size, especially if they're like, we're 15, but we want to be, tripling our revenue and growing by double and all these great things. And I'm like, fantastic. Things are going to get wonky real fast. And if you're trying to hire these, you're growing at that rate and you're wanting to promote internally, I'm going to promote them because they're a great individual contributor and they're going to be a director of all these things. I'm like, awesome. Does everybody know what that means to go from an individual contributor to a manager? Because I guarantee you that person is going to be like, yep, I can do it. And that they have the knowledge and the skills and the abilities to do it. But having that conversation and having someone be able to connect those dots and like lead leadership through those changes is really, really important. And you don't need a, chief people officer to do that. I think a fractional leader comes in, they're fully embedded into your organization. They are HR, and they'll bridge that gap between when you need to hire an actual HR manager or an HR generalist, and they'll tell you, here's what you actually need. tweak these systems, get these systems in place. Here's some alignment on your policies that will scale with you for the foreseeable future. Here's some comp data. So I have in my arsenal, I've got the comp data. I have the policy handbook. I have the 20 plus years of experience. And you get that all as the embedded fractional leader, and it bridges, instead of just saying, okay, we'll hire an HR coordinator and they'll like just process the paperwork. I'm not saying that HR coordinator is not important, because they are, and they're fantastic. But do yourself a favor and like do a gut check. There's HR, I call it an HR health check, where I use a series of surveys effectively to benchmark clients against what is best practice and where are their gaps. And so if they're looking to do an acquisition or they're looking to raise money, okay, let's do a due diligence quick check and look at what that looks like. Let's do a strategic one. Where does that align for you as a startup or a smaller company? And where does that align if you are a larger scaled organization on what best practices are necessary? Also, are you compliant? Like, I mean, there's like really boring things of compliance.
Right.
Things that I even learned. I'm like, oh yeah, that is a really good point. That needs to be done. There are, I want to say, I saw something like 250 new laws that came out this year across states. And if you have employees in Illinois, Cook County, Chicago, New York City, I think today just had a sick leave policy go into effect. I mean, there are like... You
actually don't have to work there. Everything's free there now. So
yeah, I mean, everything's like, everything's great and everything's under snow. But there are so many policies that I'm even catching up with. Right. And there's no way that like anybody can and go, okay, so here's the consequence. It's not just good enough to do this. And you could call your employment attorney. And not speaking for employment attorneys, but I can guarantee you they want to have that conversation with you. But they're like, do some thinking ahead on what you want to accomplish and how do you develop a policy or a program in your company that, and then, think through it, not like, okay, well, your Delaware sick time or your Maryland sick time is out of compliance, so you need to just throw sick time at people in Maryland. There's nuances to that, and like, how do you scale that? How do you track time against it?
Yeah.
There are very real things that I'm like thinking about policies right now that I'm like, oh yeah, we should probably do that. So yeah, looking at your HR maturity model, if you're 15 employees, 20, and you just want to see, I mean, I think there's great opportunity to have a conversation with someone as a fractional HR leader, and there's a right fit, for everybody. It may not be me, and you may discover after a conversation with myself or a peer of mine that, you know what, I've decided this is the right way, or let's do that health check. Yeah. Let's see how we measure up. Like, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So do that health check, and out of that, you also get a roadmap. So, okay, based on what we're seeing out of this data, we're going to tell you think your problem is onboarding. That's not, we could fix it. That's fine. It has 0 ROI. Where you really want to focus your time based on, your growth patterns, you want to focus on your middle managers or your job architecture or your comp plans. So let's talk about what that roadmap looks like for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, so you can plan accordingly.
I love the fractional option because I see that in marketing. I do kind of fractional marketing work, and I talk to 8-figure companies that will hire a junior level marketing associate. That it's not their fault. They're just coming in junior. They've never been taught a lot. They're new. They're trying to get experience.
They're like, yes, I'll do it.
And they come in. It's like, do our LinkedIn, run our entire branding, content marketing strategy. And they don't really have the tools or resources or experience to do it.
Yeah.
And the entire marketing and branding of an 8-figure company is left up to a junior marketing associate.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's like, hey, pause that hire. Bring someone in that has more experience, that can look at a holistic picture of your marketing and say, the team, the budget, the channels, the positioning, the differentiator, the brand story, what are we going to do? How are we going to, all of these different types of things. What is a waste of time versus what should we be investing in, ad spend? I mean, all of that.
Yeah.
What talent are we leveraging overseas that could be potentially more cost effective and still do great work?
Yeah.
who do we need to hire if we are going to bring someone on that would fit the strategy?
Yeah.
Instead of just bringing someone in and be like, do marketing.
Do the marketing.
Like, what?
Well, it's like,
it's wild. And they got the money. They're not thinking about it the right way, you know?
And I can talk about this all day long on the same thing for a CFO or an accountant, but you don't hire an APAR person to run your FP&A. So why are you hiring an office manager / HR coordinator to run your benefit strategy and your, I had conversations about like 401k compliance and they're like, well, we just do this because this is like what we've always done, which
that's the greatest saying ever. Yeah.
Lights me up. I'm like, tell me more.
Yeah.
But it's what we've done. I'm like, there are so many wonderful tools and companies out there all around the people experience and having, in my ecosystem, I'm like, I promise you that is a great tool. It's not for you. And here's why. And here's 2 others that are going to be better matched to your future strategy.
You mentioned managing the performance of employees. How do you manage the performance of employees?
I mean, just like tell them every day, this is what I need to know. I'm just kidding.
Get out your ruler.
How to manage performance of employees.
Let me ask you a quick question on that too. I talked to somebody I know recently and they were like, they were doing a performance review and it was with like the HR type person. Mm-hmm. But the managers, the actual leader of that person was not present for that meeting. And I thought that was kind of weird, right? So like they're almost talking to them about their performance, but the people who would be leading them and developing them were not there. Does that make any sense to you?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
That's not a thing.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, absolutely not.
That's not a thing, she says.
So
that's not a thing. It never will be.
So I think one of the misconceptions in HR is like, we'll just send them to HR, they'll deal with it.
Right.
And I'm like, cool. Absolutely not. I want to walk, and especially in these companies that are, 25 to 250 employees, I want my HR team or myself to be hand in hand, like accounts, like they're my accounts. And so, okay, I get the sales team because they're always the gnarly ones, right? And they always have like the CROs got their own thing going on. I'm like, all right, I'll manage them because they need some help.
Right.
But then at some point, they're in a stable mode. Okay, I'm going to pass you off to one of my human resources business partners or the HR manager who can kind of maintain that stability and loop me in when is needed. But we need to build some things. So when it comes to performance management, I mean, where do you want to go with this? We could talk all day long about processes or frequency.
Let's do this. What if you got you got an employee that's not performing?
Yep.
How do you have that conversation? Maybe it's been 2 or 3 months and they're just not seeming to get it.
I'm going to take them out to coffee and go, what's going on? I'm going to be honest. Something's up. Things aren't going right. You're stressed. I'm stressed. And you can share with as much with me or as little. But I'm letting you know something's up and you're not where you have been. Something's going on. And I want to help you get back to wherever you were, but we need to have this conversation. And that's going to be my walk and talk coffee conversation.
That's a good way to do it, actually. A good format is walk and talk, coffee talk.
Get out of the office.
Yeah.
Change
Let the walls down.
Let the walls down. Look around. I mean, I know in this remote world that is harder to do. I think you can still do it on Zoom, but it's just more of a let's chat.
Yeah.
And jump to it very quickly. Hey, this is not a PIP. This is not a like you're fired situation. Something's up. Something's off. Could be me. Could be. I don't want to say it. I think it's you. That's awkward.
Could be me. Probably you, though, to be honest. But
that's a little awkward. Maybe practice that before you do it.
That's definitely it could. There's a 1% chance of me. 99% chance. It's probably you. You're probably getting fired. But let's talk about it.
Before that, let's talk about that. So I think that's good. So I think there is a moment of pause and going back to like being curious, having patience. Pause. You don't have to jump to these things happen on these days and, the evidence locker. Like, don't go into the evidence locker. Like, do the human thing and be like, is something up? And maybe they're holding something in that is nerve-wracking and they're not ready to share. I think the best thing that you can do is say, hey, I just want to let you know, I do want you to be aware that something is impacting your work. And I want to figure out if there's something that we can do on the interim to like alleviate that stress. Or if there's something bigger picture and you're just, and you're not happy. Maybe you're just done.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. It doesn't put them on the spot to reveal too much, but it's just that human connection if someone's not performing. And come out of that meeting with, lead them to say, hey, if it's not the right time to talk, let's talk tomorrow. Let's talk in 2 days. I want to put a plan in place, not a PIP. Just you and me, because I want previous Bob or Sally or whomever to come back. And I want to figure out how we can help you do that sooner rather than later.
Right.
And I'm not going to talk to HR. I know I'm HR, but I'm not going to bring in HR right now. I want this to be between you and me. And if I need to start delegating to other members on the team, or I'll take on some things, but something's got to change. And that is a way better conversation than immediately going and being like, my employee's not performing, I need to put them on a PIP. And I'm like, I push back so hard when I have clients or leaders or managers come to me and they're like, we got to put so-and-so on a PIP. And I do a big timeout. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to start looking at what is the manager doing to stay in front of these performance issues. And it's like, well, everybody else on the team, likes to drink beer on Fridays. I'm like, cool. So that's a performance metric right. on this. I mean, I worked in staffing. I know there's a lot of wild things that happen, but that's not a performance metric. And maybe let's be a little bit more curious on like, what do you need them? What's the outcome? What's the desired outcome of that? I don't have an answer for that right now because sometimes even HR needs to pause and go, like, all right, what are we really getting at here? And then on the strategic side, so there's that like tactical. And then on the strategic side, leaders can look at and say, how do I make sure that my employees generally know they're doing well? They know what's expected. They know what's next for them. My company's 15 employees and we don't really do performance reviews because like we're all sitting in front of each other. I'm like, then you don't have to do performance reviews, but you need to think about, but you're going to hire 10 more people. How are they going to know that they're performing? Or you're going to hire people below these people. Are those, new managers equipped to have performance conversations consistently and professional development conversations, and also framing it to say, you're going to get formal performance feedback, but I also expect you as a member of my team to recognize if I bring you into a meeting that you're not supposed to be into, there's probably a reason. And I may not be able to tell you right away, but just sit there and I'll tell you later. I think there's those professional development osmosis points that need to be articulated, and a manager, your middle managers, are the prime place where you can do that. And at these smaller companies, there's such an opportunity where you're taking really great individual contributors, you're promoting them, and you're not creating the scaffolding for them to actually continue to exhibit leadership traits.
When I talk to a lot of founders, when it comes to an employee not performing, typically they'll tell you all about what they're not doing. They're this, they're that, they're this. And then the first question I ask is, have you had a real conversation with them about it? Kind of like what you're talking about, go to coffee, just have a chat, just what's going on, how you doing? And usually the answer is not really, or it's not been a specific enough chat. But then you've got the other side where some people are just like, they have a good heart. And I know some founders like this now where like, I know they're probably not the right fit. Deep down, I know I probably should fire them, but I've had conversations with them. I've done my due diligence, but they're still just not there. But they're a good person, but they're kind of dragging it out. And I'm like, every day you drag this out, that person could find some role that they excel in and they love. And you could have found someone that is actually doing the job at a high level and moving the company or organization forward. What do you think about that? They drag it out sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, there is a point where I'm like, okay, so how long has this been going on? And it's usually like, I don't know, a couple months. I'm like, all right, so what's your plan for this month? What's the action that you're going to take this month? And it's either I'm gonna create the job rec that I really want this person to do, or that I need I'm like, take the person out of the role and like, what is the job that needs to be done? And okay, let's start thinking about maybe this is a backfill or reconfiguring how the team works. And then maybe there is an exit for this person. And depending on that person, maybe it's a soft exit where it's like, hey, we're going to change this role. And we're going to give you the courtesy that, like, we want you to keep working here. You're a great team member. I just don't know if there's that role here. That does not work for everyone. So let's be real clear that, like, there may be a hard and fast where you're just like, hey, we're doing some changes. Your last day is going to be this Friday. We're going to, if you want to do a severance, great. If you don't, great. I advise, please pay severance. And that's where, HR leadership can kind of navigate some of those waters too. But it's so, I hate saying like, well, it depends. There's so many factors that would go into that. But I think dragging it out has its points, but I'm looking at more of you've made the decision that this person is not performing to the level that you now need or want. You are a good person. Let's talk through the next 2, 4, 6 weeks, because once that decision's made in your heart, in your head, we got to move. We got to move on it. And there's really good ways to do it. And guess what? The employee probably is like, something's up. I don't know what to do about it. I'm going to work my best and do all this great stuff and try. And sometimes it's just better to be clear.
Right. So, if you do got to fire somebody.
Yep.
Is there a proper way to do it to where you don't get in trouble? Because I know some people think nowadays it's like, if I let someone go and I didn't do the exact right things, like there's a lawsuit or something could happen. How do you handle that?
This is not legal advice. Okay.
This is not legal advice.
So, there's always risk. There's always risk when you're going into a termination meeting. And I think there's ways. It's less about the risk of like, well, yeah, getting sued is not great. I think there has to be, what is the experience that person's going through in that moment? The first person that I was in the room with that I had to terminate, it became a discussion. And I was like, this is awful. Like, this is going sideways. And it wasn't even like their manager. It was like my boss and like me.
Oh, wow.
I think it was a divide and conquer situation. There were multiple terminations happening that day. And it was one of those, we were not prepared. And I'm talking about like decisions made for either performance reasons or the business reasons. And we were just not buttoned up, and it was kind of a mess. And for that person, it was not a good experience because it wasn't clear. I understand. I totally get it. Unfortunately, the decision has been made. Here's this. Where you can prepare for that, when someone comes to me and says, all right, we got to move forward with this termination. Let's assume that there's been a PIP or documented things, and it's one of those awkward, like, it's just not working anymore. I'm not talking like egregious things like terminate right now. It's just not working anymore. Great. So there is a playbook that I have, and it is timed, and there are like times of day. I know this is really bad information. I think through, is it better to do it first thing? Is it, midday? We talk about who on the team is there, who needs to know. I mean, there's like swim lanes that happen. Like, there's a whole series of events. And again,
what is the best time to fire somebody?
I don't know. There isn't a good time.
I didn't think so. But,
there isn't a good time. I hate first thing in the morning because they're like, I just took the hour train into the city for you to fire me. Like, that's dumb. Yeah. Like, I've got all these things. There are timing considerations. I never fire someone on a Friday. That's not cool. And
Just take a really long weekend from here on out. Just your weekend has been extended.
Yeah, you have a long weekend. I think there's just a series of questions that I go through to figure out, all right, the decision's been made. Let's be very buttoned up, and I will walk the manager and maybe their boss. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do a mock termination.
Oh, interesting.
I will meet with them and I'll be like, here's what you're saying. Here's what you're saying. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what this other person's doing. There are multiple people involved in this termination, and there's a role and a responsibility. And I think that patience up front can alleviate some stress for the manager. I talked to someone who's been working for 30 years, and they're like, I've never fired anybody. Like, I've never been in the room. And I'm like, okay, well,
that's kind of wild.
That's wild. Great. Good for you. And
like, my team's down 500% for the year. It's like, well, no one.
Maybe we need to have a conversation with you.
Right.
So when you're having to terminate someone, again, egregious things, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
There is always risk. And I look at it from my HR lens is you got to understand what this person is going through.
Yeah.
As much as possible, and doesn't mean you need to bring it up. It's not like, hey, I know you have like a new house or like kids. Jeez. But there's times where I had to terminate people virtually, and I was like, make sure no one's in the room. Like there's kind of these situations where I'm like, I don't want them to be like, hey, hello, and you hear kids in the background.
Right.
Like, you need to envision that whole people experience.
Yeah.
And kind of foresee all those things. Now, as a founder, I also understand, but sometimes you just want it done. And if you have an HR leader or someone who's been there, they're like, it can be done very quickly. Like, this is not a long, drawn out process. But don't have your managers or somebody else like squabble through it and hope for the best. There's a buttoned up approach that you can do, and do it nicely and as respectfully as possible. And hopefully, let's rewind. Hopefully that person's like, yeah, I saw it coming. Like,
or maybe it wasn't. Yeah, this probably isn't the right fit, or I've not been happy. Yeah,
like,
because it just sucks to have to let people go. I mean,
if it's a shock, if I'm in the room and they are shocked, I'm going to have a different conversation with the manager later and their boss and go, why was that a shock?
Right. Help
me understand why that was a shock. Because now I'm mad. Because now I'm like, who else on the team is maybe not performing?
Right.
And that's also, I don't mean to get mad at it, but it's more of like, okay, let's be curious. Does this manager know that it is their responsibility to give feedback consistently and clearly? And like, do they have the tools on how to motivate their team? Or, do they have like the autonomy and the permission structure to say, God, I really want to like give this person a bonus, but I can't. I'm like, what's their favorite thing? They love the Chicago Bulls. All right, we have suites at the Chicago. What game do they want?
Yeah.
Send them. Say thanks so much. You're doing great. We can't do raises right now, but I'd love to send you to a couple of games. Like, bring some friends. Have one. Like, it's not the same as cash, but like maybe for that person it is.
Yeah.
And that's a good autonomy thing that like a manager or leadership should have in their arsenal. Again, does not replace cash. But you need to give those permission structures to encourage your team, but also manage performance accordingly. So,
well, I think it makes me think about too the other side of it, which is how often is a leader bringing their people in the room and just taking a time out and going, hey, I just want to thank you for the amazing work that you're doing and how committed you are to this team and that project you just did over here that helped us do X, Y, and Z, or how you show up in leadership meetings. It's just like, and here's an example of it. And this is what the impact it's having on the team and the company. Yeah. It's like, I don't think we sometimes naturally as human beings kind of go to what's missing first or the problem first. It's our survival brain.
Yeah.
And then we sometimes forget like, wow, it'd be nice if I called that person in instead of being like, what's wrong? It was just like 5-10 minutes on just everything they're absolutely crushing it in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a direct email from leadership, maybe not someone that they hear from.
Yeah, that's a big one. That means a lot to an employee too.
Or a account, like if you're in the HR group, but you get like a a note from like the chief technology officer who's like, hey, I heard about this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. Like, I know you put a lot of work into that. I just thank you. That's all.
Yeah.
Like, and there's no but. There's no like but.
Yeah.
Because and I think there is an intentional, like, it needs to come from CEO. It needs to come, cross-departmentally. But also as a leader, think about who on a different team do you admire, respect, see as, a high potential. Or maybe just reach out to someone who you're like, man, they're doing really great. And do they prefer, a quiet recognition? Do they prefer more like ostentatious, like celebratory things? Like you got to, again, read the room, know what's going on with them. But I think the quiet celebrations actually do a ton of good and are so low lift, big reward. Those emails, I mean, you could do a handwritten note. That's always fine. But a simple email or like a stop by their desk and be like, hey, thanks a lot for that help on that board deck. Those insights were really helpful. You're doing great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Oh my God.
Yeah,
that person is on cloud 9 for the next week.
Yeah.
And they're like, I will do anything. What else do you need me to do?
Yes.
Like, how else do I do that stuff? And, again, it's great to pay your people well and to give them that autonomy, but it is very, very high ROI for just that people connection.
So I saw on a LinkedIn post that you were diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
Was that last year?
I don't know. What year is it? It's 2026. It was 2025. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious what that experience was like, and has it changed you as a person going through that?
Yeah. So let me tell you, this is a wild ride. So right before I was diagnosed, going through all the processes, diagnosed with stage 1, I don't know, insert like technical terms, breast cancer.
Right.
And I was at a client on the first day. And I'm doing a kickoff meeting with the client, and I see Northwestern calling my phone. And I'm like, I know what this is. And I ignored because I was like, I know what it is. And in that moment, I'm like, I have to be on. I'm like, I just won the business. I got to like pitch myself. It was like a very, thing. And Northwestern called again. And I'm like, I have to take this call. And I lied and I said it was my son's school. I was like, they never call. Something must be up.
Yeah.
I got to take this call. And I went into a room and I talked to the nurse and she's like, here's what's going on. I'm like, okay. And it was like such a weird experience, but also like very on brand for me. Like, okay, well, this is how we do this. Like, kind of like I was in a board meeting 8 years ago going through the IVF process. And I had to excuse myself from a board meeting. I'm like, excuse me, I have to go like give myself a shot to go through the IVF process. And they're like, is everything okay? I'm like, it's fine. So with cancer, I think it was, I'm very pragmatic about it. And I think that I'm very, very lucky. I have great healthcare. I live in Chicago. I have Northwestern there. I have the team of doctors. I think I also look to my mom as guidance because she also had pretty much the same kind of cancer and she's thriving.
Amazing. Yeah,
I'm a little bit teary because my aunt also had it and she actually just recently passed away. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
It was a little bit jarring too. And you just see, people go through different experiences, but I was like, I need to be very loud about it and I didn't tell my clients, I didn't tell most people until I was done with treatment because I don't know, it was just for me. It was like I wanted to have that separation in between. I didn't want that to define me.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to shout it from the rooftops to be like, shit happens and how you deal with it is your story. Like you can deal with it however you want. And I'm shouting it because I'm like, it was so easy for me to just go in and get screened. And I forgot to do it one year. And did that change the outcome? No, it just still was.
Right.
And friendly reminder, like do your thing, get your screenings and don't be scared of like what the result can be. Cause like you're in control of that.
Yeah.
And the timing was there, and we called it bummer summer, and like had a surgery, and we didn't tell a lot of our family because there were weddings happening and like big things. I was like, I don't want this to be a distraction for like their moments. And also I kind of like that delineation between like inside Lindsay and outside Lindsay.
Yeah.
And I think just having that space to be like non-cancer Lindsay was really important to me. And so that was my style. And then in one of my peer groups, I blasted it out when I was done with radiation and treatment and all that. So I'm done with active treatment. Now I'm in the 5-year plan, kind of like college, but it's
for now.
I don't know how you like talk about it. And I really don't care. It's like, yes, I have or had breast cancer. I'm still in what I'd say preventative treatment for the next 5 years, which is a new like journey. It's kind of I don't want to like relate it at all to parenting a newborn, but it's just like, it's a different, your world's like, oh, things are interesting. So, but in this peer group, I was able to share it and, you know, do all that stuff. And a woman reached out a couple months, weeks, I don't know, time is weird. And she's like, I found something. I think it is. And then she told me, she's like, it is. And I was like, she's like, thanks for reminding us to like go do those things. And I was like, she's like, how did you decide who to tell and what to do? And I was like, it is your story. And I had, you know, resources. I reached out to Immerman Angels here in Chicago. They paired me with someone who had my exact type. They paired me with someone who also went to Northwestern for their medical treatment. And it was just good to talk to someone outside of family and outside of, you know, ChatGPT and the internet, who had been through that. And so I give a ton of kudos to Immerman Angels for that kind of support network. And their whole mission is like, no one should go through cancer alone. And so that was very helpful for me. And now I see it as more of, okay, it's a chapter. It's a part of who I am. But that's the kind of how I look at like my career. It's like now I'm in this kind of journey or portfolio of experiences and portfolio of impact. And like, how can I make an impact that's beyond, you know, the W-2 and the title and the money and kind of rediscovering that. And so like one of those journey lines is like, okay, cancer and how do we talk about cancer and illness and grief in the workplace and in our careers, and how do we learn from that? Like, what are things that we learn and confirm for us or change for us? I mean, did I like go through my house and like get rid of all the like toxic things? Not yet, but like slowly but surely. I'm like, okay, it's time to recycle like those
90% of things these days.
Yeah.
Like, I always think about that stuff too. Yeah. I'm like, you know, it's like, gosh, there's so many things that probably we shouldn't be eating or drinking.
100%. But I still probably do. I did not total like left turn out of it. I was just more of, all right, well, let's do better.
Did it change your perspective on just life, like parenting?
I didn't have that.
No? Okay.
I didn't have that. I don't know why. And I keep like looking for it. It's like when you have a kid and they're like, oh my God, you immediately fall in love. I was like, I looked at my son and was like, you're cool. I was like, you are awesome. I know I will love you, but like, give me a minute. And it was like, I needed to build a relationship with him. It wasn't the immediate thing. And so with cancer, it's a little bit like, I know I'm supposed to have this like, you know, awakening moment. And I'm like, I didn't. And I think that's okay. And I'm okay sharing that. I'm still waiting for that perspective or that perspective change. But maybe that tells me that I'm doing the right things for where I'm at in my life stage. And again, coming from it from a place of immense privilege and knowledge and experience that like, again, I'm in a central healthcare region. Like you know, walk out the door and you have some of the best healthcare in the world. And I have insurance, which is a fun thing for us Americans. And I've got a support system. I've got a husband who works from home. I have a son who is 7 and he's like functional, like on his own, right?
More independent at that
more
age.
independent.
Yeah, it's nice.
And I've got, neighbors and peers who are like, we got this, and so that's
cool.
That was really helpful. So
yeah, I think that's one of the cancers that they have a high probability for success. And that's what I've heard, at least. Right?
Yeah. So
nowadays,
yes,
maybe not in the old days it used to be, but nowadays they've got good medicines and things like that for it.
Yeah. So the short story with cancer that I learned, even with my mom and my aunt and like friends who've gone through things, man, science is cool.
Yeah.
Like science is so cool.
Yes.
And I think there's so much positivity in what science is doing nowadays. And like they said, they did the analysis, not to get super technical, but they did the analysis. They're like, 5 years ago, you would have needed chemo. But based on our new analysis, you don't need chemo.
Wow.
And I was like, that is fantastic, number one. And number two, I am so fascinated. Tell me more about this. And they have like these, probability charts. And they're like, if you stay on this path and like, here's your risk factor and like where you are. It is so, but I also had a friend, we both had Bummer Summer together, and hers is a little bit different, very similar, but just slightly different, where she's like, I have a different prognosis. And like, there's just so many things, whereas before it was like stage 1, stage 2, like, and based on these stages, now there's just so many different types and nuances. So I want to say to everybody who's, looking at cancer or breast cancer in different ways, I think the science is so fascinating, and I hope to continue to be able to fund the research behind it, because my mom and I had very similar, but we don't know the specificities of hers from 30 years ago. And thank God, she's still here, and she had a newspaper clipping that she gave to me, and she's like, there's a new drug out there. And I was like, that's 20 years old, but okay. But there's so much cool science behind it. And, but also ask questions. Like, I think there's definitely more of a, maybe it's because I'm older and wiser or whatever, but I definitely had a more proactive conversation with my doctors than I probably would have had 10 years ago.
Right.
Because I'm like, and it wasn't Google driven or, ChatGPT driven. It was very much like tell me about, I've heard about this. Tell me more about it. And I had to remove everything that like the internet was telling me and break it down into like, what am I trying to accomplish? There's nothing wrong with trying things, but at the end of the day, the science is the science.
Yeah.
So
it is cool. Science is cool.
Science is cool.
And hopefully with AI and modern technology, like, you talk 5-10 years.
Oh my gosh.
15, 20, whatever it is, we may be looking back saying almost no one dies from cancer.
There are vaccines that they're evaluating now for certain types of breast cancer.
Really?
And you just go,
wow, that's wild.
Like same with, they were able to do vaccines for other types of cancers.
Yeah.
And just, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
But it is cool. And I'm fortunate to have had the experience that I had. So.
I love your outlook. Is it cool being married to a entrepreneur? Is there pros and cons to that?
Oh my gosh. I would say there's more pros.
Really?
But that's me, because I'm crazy. I would say being married to an entrepreneur, I'm so proud of him in so many ways. I think I had, growing up, my dad worked in HR. My mom worked in HR.
Oh,
so
wow,
that was,
that's
my
funny.
grandfather was in HR.
Well, no wonder you got into it. Jeez, yeah.
By accident, totally. But I didn't have a perception of like what this person did or what, I didn't grow up with entrepreneurs.
Me either. Yeah.
It was very 9-to-5 corporate work. My mom, stayed at home and then worked in an admin role at a non-for-profit. My dad worked, the big Deloitte consulting job, PwC consulting job. And so entrepreneurship was like never a thing in my thought of having a career. I did strategically, I went to school to be a high school English teacher. I loved literature. I loved English. I loved teaching. But I respected the profession so much that I was like, that is not for me right now, and decided to go into corporate. And I was like, I'm going to be a corporate person. And so entrepreneurship just never was a thing. And having your spouse and partner also be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think he also was like, I don't know if this is for me. And so kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud and fortunate that like we're both in it and happy with what we're doing.
Feels like a blessing when you think about it, just because so many people that don't like what they do. They dread every day. They can't wait till the weekend. And if it's just, I feel really great. Every day I feel very grateful. I'm like, I get to do this like for a living.
Yeah.
Like I don't take it for granted.
I don't take it for granted. And there may be, I always say, and maybe this was like the cancer outlook, but I'm like, I don't know. I might go back to corporate. I might not. I don't know. But right now I'm happy and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I feel like I'm a better provider for my family, and I'm a better provider for my clients and knowledge base for my clients because of some of the perspectives that I have. And for my clients, and there's a place and time for what I offer to my clients. There are places and times where I'm like, you don't need me, you need X, this other option. And so, having kind of our alignment on what is entrepreneurship, we look at it more of like last night I was up till like way too late in the night building a new website just because I was like, it's for funsies. I have this idea and I'm going to go do it. And so I did. And Bill's like, can you go to bed? I'm like, it needs to happen now. I need to build this website, and it's not launched yet, but it's coming soon. And it's just, I respect if on the weekend he's like, I got to crank through this thing. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I have, the Maggie Smith from Downton Abbey has this phrase. She's like, what is weekend? Like where they're talking about, we're going to this on a weekend, and like, what is weekend? And I feel like that a lot with being an entrepreneur or being a founder. It's like you work really hard when you're ready to work, and you also have to listen to your body and listen to kind of the things that are going on and say, I am not going to do that level of intensity work today.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to serve anybody good. And so it works well for us.
Freedom is one of the best things I like about entrepreneurship is even though you got to be careful that it actually can be your ball and chain if you're not careful, and it can actually put you in a box. But if you do it right and you put enough time and work, it can lead to a lot of freedom and happiness and fulfillment. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a great conversation.
For having me.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you a lot. And where can people go to find you, connect with you, learn more about what you do?
Yep. Lindsay Dagiantis on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, blueprinthr.co, and you can find me there.
Cool. By the time this launches, the website will be updated.
Yeah. My other website, it'll be fractionalblueprints.co.
Okay.
There'll be links, but you can find me on LinkedIn or blueprinthr.co.
Cool. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.